other shows we have for you to enjoy at myclassicradio.net. The Avengers was most certainly not a household name in South Africa prior to the radio series. With no national television service until 1976, the mechanism simply was not present in the country to show television programs to mass audiences. While many other countries reveled in the filmed adventures of John Steed and Company, South Africa was not equipped to join in the fun. The series took Britain by storm and made a major impression in the American markets, being that greatest of rarities, a British series given a network transmission slot. However, as a filmed series, rather than a videotaped one, The Avengers was able to gain a modicum of exposure in South Africa through film rentals. Come and listen at myclassicradio.net.
Calling all detectives. A man goes off to make his fortune, and for 25 years sends an orchid a year to the woman he loves, but never writes a letter. That is the situation on this page from my casebook, the casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. You can't be a private detective like me, Jerry Browning, and be sentimental, too. Sentiment just doesn't mix with this business. I was working late one evening at my office, fixing up an expense account of money I'd spent on behalf of a client, trying to make the thing read like fact rather than fiction. At 7:30, I was still trying to make it come out even when... It was a building scrubwoman lugging a pail and mops. She hesitated in the doorway. "It's all right, you can come in." She was a woman in her mid-50s, I judged. Hair graying, short and tending to be dumpy, pleasant though plain face, nice direct eyes. None of that was remarkable. What was startling was a fresh purple orchid pinned to the blouse of her shapeless dress. I looked and looked. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I know it isn't any of my business, but would you mind telling me how you happen to be wearing that flower? She gave me a shy smile, and then calmly told me one of the most fantastic and improbable stories I'd ever heard. When my office scrubwoman came to work wearing an expensive orchid, I couldn't resist asking how come. The story went back over 25 years. A boy and a girl in love, without money, unable to marry. He'd gone off to make his fortune, to California. Said he'd come back for her someday. In the meantime, he sent her an orchid every year on her birthday as proof that he still thought of her. Now, 25 years later, she had another birthday, another orchid, and the faith that someday he'd return. I leaned back in my chair. "Mary, that's such an amazing story. I just don't know what to say." Well, I started out by saying that it was none of my business, and it still wasn't. Yet I couldn't put it out of my mind. I had to find out why that orchid was being sent, really why, and by whom. The nearest florist shop to our building is Lober's, a couple of blocks down the avenue. I went there the next morning. "Really, sir, when the donor of a sentimental gift requests secrecy, we never divulge his name, never." I took my badge out of my pocket and gave the clerk a quick look at it. The badge says private operator, but few people read that. Sonny, I'll have to ask you once more. Where do the orchids for Mary Kovacs come from? After that, I won't ask anymore.
I didn't realize. Police matter. One moment, sir.
The clerk came back with a ledger.
"This is the record of our flowers by wire orders. The annual orchid on her birthday is sent to Miss Mary Kovacs from Pasadena, California. The donor's name with instructions not to divulge is Arnold Dranacek."
Oh, that was that. The name of Mary's long-absent sweetheart was Arnold Dranacek. And if he wanted to send her orchids for 25 years, but no letters, there was no law to prevent it. I could pretend that I got right on a plane and went to California, except that I did nothing of the sort. But 5 months later, I happened to be in Los Angeles. With my business finished and nothing to do for 8 hours, I suddenly remembered Mary Kovacs and her bashful beau. Pasadena is a beautiful little city, and some fine people live there. But Arnold Dranacek was not one of them. His name wasn't in the phone book of the city directory. So I took my problem to the Bureau of Vital Statistics. And there...
Which is Dranacek Arnold?